At dinner with my partners, I already felt that this night would not be like the others. I've been working in the financial market for decades, and at the age of 52, I can't identify when the air in a room changes. The restaurant was on the top floor of a well-known building in Manhattan, one of those that have glass walls and a view that makes anyone stop to look. My partners were relaxed, talking about projections and contracts, and I tried to keep my head on what mattered. But my wife had been behaving strangely for weeks, and I already knew something was about to happen. When she raised her glass and said with a cold smile that the company would be hers anyway, I felt the shock run through the entire table. She spoke loudly as if she were making a public announcement, and my partners were silent. I kept quiet too, but inside me something screamed. That moment only confirmed what I already knew, because she had been showing clear signs that she believed she was 2 steps ahead. She always had this look, as if she controlled the whole room, as if she was guaranteed victory. At that moment, I stopped being a victim. I became an observer. She thought I didn't see her movements. But after so many years of dealing with big money, with mergers and legal disputes, you learn to read intentions with few gestures. She believed that I was distracted, that my focus on the investment fund made me blind to what was happening inside the house. Her mistake was to underestimate someone who works with risk every day. I knew about the hidden meetings, the conversations with the weakest partner, the attempts to access confidential documents. I even knew about the messages sent at the times when she thought I was traveling. She talked about the plans as if it were a matter of time before I lost control of the company. And all that had one intention: to create a personal scandal that would remove me from the administration. They had greed. I had the documents. I just waited for the right moment for everything to come to light without me having to raise my voice. The restaurant had that elegant silence, where everything seems too soft, but inside you know the tension is building. My partners looked at each other after her sentence, but no one said anything. Her attitude had been public, calculated, almost theatrical. She rested her elbow on the table, as if she were sure of her own position. And then she began to insinuate that she would soon sit there as the owner, as if she had already taken on an achievement. I just kept watching. They began to talk as if I were invisible. She got carried away with her own arrogance, thinking she had them all in her hands. But my oldest partner looked at me and gave the signal. He knew everything from the beginning, because he was the first person with whom I shared the suspicions. He was the one who helped set up the system that took the recordings. It was not an invasion of privacy. It was not a trap. They were conversations recorded by those she tried to manipulate. She thought that it was enough to promise support to turn the corporate structure around. Her naivety turned out to be her own ruin. When the tablet was placed on the table, I didn't say a word. It was connected to their restaurant system, and in moments the screen that showed the skyline changed too. The file's home screen. She still hadn't understood. He had the same confident smile as always, but that smile disappeared as soon as her voice echoed through the room. She was in the parking lot of the building, talking about how she was going to get me out of the company. In the audio, she said that it was enough to mount a personal scandal to ruin a manager. It was his own voice. Clear, direct, impossible to deny. She froze. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. He lost his color like someone who had the ground torn off. The employees stopped. Some customers looked. My partners waited in silence, watching her mask shatter. Fooling a mother is easy. It is difficult to beat a mother who woke up. There, I realized that I didn't need to win by shouting. I just needed to let the truth speak for itself. My revenge was not to fight. It was letting her lose alone. As her voice continued to echo through the restaurant, I felt something strange inside me. It wasn't anger. It was not relief. It was the silent confirmation of everything I already knew. I spent years believing that she walked by my side, that she wanted to build something with me. But at that moment I realized that she walked alone, in another direction, and only used me as a step. I kept quiet while the audios followed. She talked about strategies to destabilize me, about how she would spread rumors in the market to make me look incompetent, and even about how she would try to manipulate my younger partner with empty promises. She described each step, as if everything was already guaranteed. It was hard to hear, not because it surprised me, but because here was proof that she was never with me. Her greed surpassed any feeling, and yet, I didn't respond. I just watched because at that moment I already understood that I didn't need to do anything. The truth was doing for me. She tried to interrupt the audio, saying that it was a montage, that someone was trying to incriminate her. But her own breathing in the background of the recordings made it clear that it was real. My partner calmly explained that the files came from a person she'd met herself. She denied it, but the next recording showed her setting up the meeting. I looked at her and realized that for the first time since we met, she didn't know what to do. The security she had displayed before was gone. She was trying to control the situation, but each new sentence revealed made it clearer that she had completely lost the game. I had time. She was in a hurry, and people in a hurry make mistakes. While the videos were shown, I remembered the previous weeks. I remembered the times when she came home late saying she was with friends, but the smell of unknown perfume gave away another story. I remembered the deleted conversations on the cell phone, the exaggerated care not to leave the device facing up. I remembered the coldness with which I treated myself, as someone who has already decided to abandon everything, but has not yet discovered how. And I remembered how, even though I realized everything, I chose silence. I was silent, but inside me something screamed. She believed she was in control, but it was just an illusion. When you live in the high-end American market, you learn to let people show who they really are. And that's what I did. I gave her space to show herself. And she showed herself in one piece on the screen without masks, without excuses. She put her hands on her face and tried to maintain her posture, but couldn't. The sound of her own voice distilling betrayal seemed to attack every nerve in her body. She knew that those audios would not stay only in that restaurant. She knew that this would become evidence. She knew that what came next would be much bigger than a domestic fight. It wasn't just shame. It was fear. A real fear of the legal consequences that were already formed even before she arrived that night. My oldest partner, who has followed my trajectory since I was still a junior analyst, turned to her and said that the company was not a toy, that trust was the basis of everything, and that someone willing to destroy her own husband would never be able to lead anything. She tried to speak, but her voice wouldn't come out. It was as if the words had fled from her. And the irony is that for months she always had so many words ready to attack me. I took a deep breath and only then decided to break the silence. I calmly asked her if she had anything to say. She shook her head, but no sentence was formed. She couldn't deny what was in front of everyone. I didn't need to humiliate her. She had humiliated herself alone. My revenge was not to fight. It was letting her lose alone. She tried to touch my arm as if there was still some kind of salvation in that approach, but I pulled away. Not out of anger, out of self-respect. At that moment, I stopped being a victim. I became an observer. And as an observer, I saw her sink in a way I had never seen. She realized then that everything she had planned so confidently had turned against her just as quickly. The employees continued to stand still, trying to act as if nothing was happening, but it was impossible to ignore the tension. A woman at the next table widened her eyes when she heard one of the heaviest sentences in the recording, the one in which my wife said that I was easy to manipulate because men over 40 are quick to believe in fake affection. This phrase struck me, not because I believed in it, but because it was living proof of the vision she had of me. It wasn't love. It was interest. It was calculation. It was coldness. And yet I felt no hatred. I felt a kind of clarity that only appears when everything is already decided. They had greed. I had the documents. She kept trying to deny it, but the harder she tried, the deeper she went. The audios ended, but the silence that came after was even more devastating. She put her hands in her lap and lowered her head. There was nothing more to say. When the last audio ended, the screen went dark for a few seconds, and this silence seemed even heavier than anything that had been shown. She kept her head down, trying to catch her breath, and I watched every detail. I knew that, at that moment, any word of mine would carry weight, but I also knew that talking too much would only lessen the impact of the truth. I grew up believing that when someone decides to cheat on you, you don't have to scream to prove that you've been betrayed. The person himself does it for you. And there was the proof. She took a deep breath, lifted her face, and tried to form a sentence. She tried to say that it had all been a misunderstanding, that she didn't know she was being recorded, that she had been manipulated. But the voice failed. She knew that no one there would believe such justifications. Not after so many weeks of whispers, conversations behind closed doors, and calculated gestures. She looked smaller than she always showed herself, as if it had shrunk inside. I looked at my partners and could see clearly on their faces that the trust they had in her never really existed. They only tolerated her presence because I was her husband. Now that tolerance was gone. She tried to say that she loved the company, that she just wanted to protect our assets, but that rang hollow. She didn't want to protect, she wanted to control. And when a person wants control at any cost, he does not measure what he destroys along the way. I kept remembering little things. I remembered when she went through my document folder and said she was just organizing. At the time, it was suspicious, but I had no proof. I remembered when she commented that I was too good and that it put me at risk. Now it all made sense. It was she herself who created this risk. The restaurant manager approached slowly as if he didn't know whether to interrupt or no. He offered her water, but she refused. His hands trembled. My younger partner, who has always remained neutral, asked her if she had any idea of the legal consequences of trying to access confidential documents. She was silent. He calmly explained that any attempt to manipulate information from an investment fund, even without having succeeded, was already a crime. She widened her eyes, finally understanding the depth of what she had done. Until that moment, she thought she was playing a domestic power game which would be able to destabilize me and take over the company as if it were a prize. But this was not a home dispute. It was federal jurisdiction. It was too serious to be erased with excuses. She began to ask them to turn off the screen, as if erasing the image would also erase the truth. My partner hung up, but that didn't change the weight of the situation. The truth was already on the table. She tried to look at me as if asking for a way out, but I only held her gaze. Not angry, firmly. I asked her why she had done that. She took a long time to respond. He seemed to look for words that didn't exist. Finally, she said she was afraid of me leaving her, afraid of losing the lifestyle she had built by my side, afraid of being left behind. I heard it, but I didn't feel any connection in that speech. She was not sorry. She was desperate. Desperate not for me, but for what I was about to lose. There's a huge difference between guilt and fear, and at that moment, she only had the second. I remembered a phrase I heard many years ago. When someone tries to destroy you, insolence, don't give it back in kind. Just let that person keep digging. She will dig so deep that when she tries to get out, she won't be able to anymore. And that's exactly what happened. She dug on her own. I just watched. At that moment, I stopped being a victim. I became an observer. I said I had known everything for weeks. She widened her eyes again, as if it were a final stab. I explained that I already had evidence saved, testimonies from employees of the building, access records, and even a voluntary statement from the partner that she tried to manipulate. She was speechless. I realized that she didn't imagine that everything had been documented. She thought that just because I trusted her would keep me from seeing what was going on. That's when she discovered that confidence is not blindness. Trust is decision. And I had already decided to open my eyes. She got up from her chair so fast that she almost knocked over the cup. He said he needed to leave. My older partner warned her that she shouldn't, because going out that way could feel like an escape, and that would complicate the situation even more, she insisted. He said he needed to breathe. I let him, because at that point, nothing she did would change the outcome. When she walked to the elevator, I realized that the arrogant posture had disappeared. It was as if he was carrying a huge weight on his back. The elevator closed, and that silence took over the table again. I took a deep breath. My partners waited for me to say something, but I didn't have much to say. I only said that the truth had come out, and when the truth comes out, there's no point in running. They nodded. They had greed. I had the documents. And that night, the documents spoke louder. When the elevator took my wife away, I sat for a few seconds staring at the closed door. It was as if I was watching not only someone physically leaving, but also all the illusions that remained. The truth had been exposed, and now I had to deal with what came next. My partners began to talk to each other, quietly, as if they were giving me room to breathe. I thanked him for that. I needed a few moments to organize what I felt. It wasn't anger. It was not deep sadness. It was something lighter, as if finally a piece had fallen into place after months of being out of place. I had spent nights suspiciously analyzing small details, piecing together fragments of strange attitudes that I had not been able to explain before. Now everything was clear. I realized that I didn't have to win by shouting. I just needed to let the facts come out, and they had appeared that night in force. After a few minutes, my oldest partner approached. He put his hand on my shoulder and asked if I was okay. I said yes because it was true. He commented that he had never imagined that she would go so far. I also didn't imagine that she had the courage to plan something of this level. But at the same time, looking back, some of her attitudes already showed the way. He said he had been impressed by the calm I had throughout the dinner. I smiled slightly. It was not calm. It was strategy. They wanted to hurry. I had time. And when you have time, you can see everything in slow motion. He can anticipate movements. He can prepare. I knew that sooner or later, the truth would come out. I just needed to make sure that when it came up, it was recorded clearly and unquestionably. The manager returned to the table and asked if we wanted to continue dinner. I said yes because I didn't want to leave there as if I was running away. I've always believed that difficult times only gain more weight when you try to avoid them. Then we continue the meal. I forced myself to eat something, even though I wasn't hungry. They tried to change the subject, talking about projections of the fund, but it was impossible to ignore what had happened minutes earlier. Even so, I thanked them for their effort. It was the way they found to show me that I was not alone. After some time, the restaurant returned to normal. People continued their conversations, waiters circulated, and the city was still alive outside. But inside me, everything was different. When the bill arrived, I asked to pay. They insisted, saying that after everything I had been through, I shouldn't worry about it. But I made a point. It was a way of showing that I was still in control. As we went down the elevator and out into the cold New York night, the icy air brought me even greater clarity. I knew that when I returned home, I would find the emotional chaos she had left. I knew I would need to deal with lawyers, talk to the board, organize the next steps. But for the first time in months, I felt steady. It was almost ironic. She tried to knock me down, but ended up making me recover something I had lost: my own posture. I got in the car and spent a few seconds looking at the city around. The lights reflected off the glass as small decision points. I took a deep breath. I remembered when we met. I remembered the beginning, the long conversations, the plans, the trips. I tried to understand at what point everything had changed. Maybe it was never real. Maybe it was real just for me. Or maybe she changed when she realized that money could be a shortcut to a life she thought she deserved. I don't blame people for wanting more, but I don't blame those who try to destroy someone to get it. She chose this path. I wasn't Theone who put these ideas in her head. She dug on her own, and now she was stuck in her own hole. When I got home, the first thing I saw were the lights on. She was there, sitting in the living room, with her hands on her face. I calmly closed the door and stood there, watching how it looked smaller than ever. She looked up when she heard me come in and began to cry. He said he didn't know what he was doing, that he had lost himself in his own fear, that he didn't want to hurt me. I listened to everything in silence. I was silent, but inside me something screamed. She came closer, tried to hold my hand. I took a step back. I didn't want to humiliate her, but I also couldn't pretend that nothing had happened. I said I knew everything before that night even happened. She widened her eyes in surprise. He said he didn't understand. I told how I noticed her every move, how each absence made sense now, how I was gathering evidence without her noticing. She brought her hands to her chest as if she had been hit. He said he thought I would never find out. I replied that trust is not blindness. Trust is decision. And I had decided to open my eyes when she decided to stab me. She tried to say that she loved me, but love does not plan destruction. Love does not have a hidden meeting. Love does not try to bring down those who support you. Amor does not record plans of betrayal in the garage of a building. She sat down on the couch and started crying again. I felt sorry, but I didn't feel like comforting. I said that at that moment, all I wanted was clarity, that I would take care of the legal issues, that I didn't know the future of our marriage, but I knew that, as it was, it couldn't continue. She asked for a chance, said she would do anything. But some things have no return. When someone shows you who you really are, you can no longer unsee. She showed it. And now I needed to follow the truth no matter how much it hurt. After she sat on the couch crying, I stood there for a few seconds staring at that scene. It was strange to realize how someone who had lived with me for so many years could have made such profound, calculated, and destructive choices. The house was silent. Only the sound of her heavy breathing filled the room. I walked to the window and stared at the street outside. The lights of the passing cars seemed far away, as if I were observing another world. I needed to make a decision, not about anger, Not about revenge, about respect, about what I accepted or didn't accept in my life from that day on. She called me by name a few times, her voice trembling, but I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I needed to think clearly. She went on to say that she had acted out of fear, that she thought I might abandon her, that she didn't know how to deal with the life we had built. I heard it, but those words sounded like hastily assembled excuses. The truth is, she's had weeks to back off, weeks to reach out to me, weeks to be honest, and he chose precisely the opposite path. When someone insists on the mistake for so long, it is not impulse. It is intention. I turned to her and told her that nothing she said that night would erase what happened. She opened her mouth to argue, but I raised my hand and asked for silence. I explained that this was not an ordinary fight. It wasn't jealousy. It was not a misunderstanding. It was a plan. And plans leave traces. All were registered. And now you couldn't pretend it didn't exist. She cried again, saying that she had lost control. I said that when someone loses control, they usually harm themselves. They don't try to destroy another person so calmly. She asked if I was going to leave her. I took a deep breath before answering. I said, I didn't know what would happen to the wedding, but I knew I needed distance. She put her hands on her face, desperate, but I held my position. I explained that I would spend the next few days in a hotel, that I would talk to lawyers, that I would take care of the professional part first. She tried to hold my arm, but I backed off. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't going to raise my voice. I wasn't going to repeat the humiliation she brought to herself. I just needed to move forward in a way that maintained my dignity. I went to the bedroom, took a small suitcase, and put on some clothes. As I tidied up, I thought about how everything had changed so fast, and at the same time, how none of it had really been fast. There were months of signs, months of strange behavior, months of internal alerts that I ignored because I believed that marriage was a partnership and not a silent war. When I went down with the suitcase, it was sitting on the living room floor, lost. I stopped in the doorway and looked at her for the last time that night. I didn't say anything. Sometimes the best answer is written in a notary's office, and at that moment the silence said it all. I left the house, closed the door behind me, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I knew that finally the truth was in the right place. And when the truth finds its place, the rest begins to reorganize itself.